minute prime. Top of the top where I'm planning to climb. Consider this moment in time, my time. Go harder in the pain. Give it all before I give up. I was born to be a great. I was made to be a winner. Never fall, I never break. Risk it all, I'm not a quitter. I was born to be a great. I was made to be a winner. Living past the vices, I'm considered as the nicest. Know that greatness has its prices. I was raised on sacrifices. Every minute made for working. It ain't perfect, but it's worth it. Champions are made when they embrace their fate and purpose. Competition slain, bring opponents pain. Top where I remain on the totem chain. Step inside the game, make the total change. Winning isn't everything, it's the only thing. For the taking, this history in the making. These titles that y'all be claiming, like sweat on faces, I break it. I'm in the league of the favorites, just give me reason to shake it. The difference between our instinct is I'm a beast and your basic, face it all. Leaders never make excuses for mistakes at all. Mama never raised a loser, that mistake is y'all. My opponents came for schooling and I came to ball. The writing's on the wall, I go off. From the pupil, now I'm the master. Grew to be stronger, grew to be faster, grew to be what haters never imagined. Look where I'm going, see what I'm after. I'm the creator, I'm a crafter. Learn from the losses, putting in stats. I wrote it in victory, but I'm not gassed. I'm taking it to a place I can imagine. Go harder in the pain. Give it all before I give up. I was born to be a great. I was made to be a winner. Never fall, I never break. Risk it all, I'm not a quitter. I was born to be a great. I was made to be a winner. I've been on my grind, now I'm on one. Hey, I'm a winner, I was born one. Putting all my time till the war's won. Hey, I'm a winner, I was born one. I've been on my grind, now I'm on one. Hey, I'm a winner, I was born one. Putting all my time till the war's won. Hey, I'm a winner, I was born one. I'm a winner, I was born one. Go harder in the pain. Give it all before I give up. I was born to be a great. I was made to be a winner. Never fall, I never break. Risk it all, I'm not a quitter. I was born to be a great. I was made to be a winner.
Look, I'm like, who this? Why y'all tripping off who this? Why y'all looking so clueless? Why you acting like I don't do this? Hold up, you say you beast mode. I think I'ma need a little proof then. I feel like I'll probably take two of them. Somebody might leave toothless. Hold up, lions, tigers, bears, homie, that sound like a snack. I can't keep myself composed. How you settle for a stack? I've been talking to my guy. He said, boy, I got your back and your size and your front. Ain't no way we falling back. Hold up, I've been on a roll. Ooh, I'm about to blow. Someone go tell Satan he can't never have my soul. Boy, I'm stupid bold. I can't never fold. Giants ain't no issue on me. Look at who I know. I feel like I've been killing giants. I've been running everything. I've been hunting lions. Think they gonna know my name. I've been killing giants. I've been running everything. I've been hunting lions. Think they gonna. I'm in E10. You and your friends. I feel like David. I'ma go in. Oh, you ain't know what's up. Where you been? Only need one shot. You can't win.
Black ball, man. Pull up to your showing ball, man. OG Minor Johnson in your hood. I got pool, man. Yahweh on my side. Marty mid, fly with dark, you know. I done see my future. It look good. It's the Dorian. Please stay out of my space. Y'all ain't been poppin' since my space. I ain't tryna hear what you say, look. Tell it to your granny on Facebook. God as my witness. I've been learning about forgiveness. He said suckers gon' be suckers. Live your life, live your life. I had burdens, they on Christ. Wash my soul, it's on light. Broke my neck, it's on ice. Beat these beats, I'm on ice. They say life is a marathon. I'ma pull up in a sprinter. I don't play games about the thumb. It's gonna get colder this winter. Yeah.
I've been killing giants. I've been running everything. I've been hunting lions. Think they gonna know my name. I've been killing giants. I've been running everything. I've been hunting lions. Think they gonna. I'ma need 10. You and your friends. I feel like David. I'ma go in. Oh, you ain't know what's up. Where you been? Only need one shot. You can't win. Purple rubber around my neck. You think that I was Superman? All the stones they took from Thanos. Now I got them on my hand. I pull up inside that foreign higher booster that I get. David lines, I'm in that gym. I'm moving weight. It's cause I'm feeling tipsy. Father, some spirit is in me. I keep on flipping. Doggy, I'm Indy. I learned the hustle from Nipsey. Goliath, you tall, but you gon' fall. I triple the shot like a Vinci. I hit the platoon. I MF the doom. I made it to red with a 50. Yeah. Word to Yavis. I got the slingshot. Shout out to Johnny Rocket. This sound like that new bop. Pull up in the lamb. I'm covered in crimson. Running with no top. Right over your head. Just play it again. We call that re-rock. I was born to feel this fire, yeah. Hold my breath and look up higher. Oh, take life by the horns. No, I won't let go. I was born to take it to the limit, yeah. Somehow I will find the way, yeah. 'Cause I was born and I was made unbreakable, unstoppable. I push to the edge and take it all. I'm born to be untamable. Go right to the edge and never fall. Born of the fire, I'm taking it higher. Unshakable, unstoppable. I push to the edge and take it all. Take it all. From the dust and out from rubble, yeah. Iron steel, my bones won't crumble. No, no, no. Grabbing by the horns, that's what I'm built for. Born a renegade, I'm born a rebel, yeah. Somehow I will find the way, yeah. 'Cause I was born and I was made unbreakable, unstoppable. I push to the edge and take it all. I'm born to be untamable. Go right to the edge and never fall. Born of the fire, I'm taking it higher. Unshakable, unstoppable. I push to the edge and take it all. Take it all. I take it by the horns and don't let go. I climb to the top of the world, 'cause this is what I'm made for. I grab it by the horns and I don't let go. Do the impossible, 'cause this is what I'm made for. Unbreakable, unstoppable. I push to the edge and take it all. I'm born to be untamable. Go right to the edge and never fall. Born of the fire, I'm taking it higher. Unshakable, unstoppable. I push to the edge and take it all. Take it all. Take it all.
What's up, everybody? And
Yo.
welcome back to Black and White Bible Time with Ian and Elliott is my name.
And we are excited to be here together with all you guys today. Black and White Bible Time is a show where we try and make reading the Bible as simple and easy to understand. We know that sometimes when we first started reading the Bible, there's a lot of things that were confusing. And obviously at JRNY.Church, we exist for those not yet here. So a lot of times there are people who are just starting out reading the Bible. So we just want to make it black and white, simple, easy, and clear. If you're joining us for the first time, we're so thankful and grateful that you're able to be here. Be sure to leave a comment. For everybody else, make sure that you share this right now, or if you want, start a watch party with some of your friends or anybody who you know who maybe is even thinking about starting a relationship with Jesus. Maybe get this over to them as well. If you're on YouTube, be sure to hit the subscribe button, especially if you like everything that you are seeing, so you'll be able to check out the other episodes of Black and White, all 3 other episodes.
For sure. And this week we've got something a little special for you. We've been reading through the book of Acts. We've got 3 weeks worth of it for the first 3 chapters, but it's a very special week because it is the week before Easter.
That's
Tomorrow's
right.
Good Friday, anniversary of Jesus' death. Didn't stay dead though, that's the important part. But we thought that it would be really awesome to just take a quick break from the book of Acts for a second and go over some material from the Easter story to give you guys a little bit of background for this upcoming Sunday and get you guys really thinking about the awesome sacrifice that Jesus made. And we're gonna just jump right in without any further delay, but we want to...
Before you do, so one of the things that kind of had us thinking about switching towards this is the fact that, like he said, tomorrow's Good Friday. Sure. Today's obviously Thursday, so tomorrow's Friday. We kind of wanted to go back, especially after Pastor Steve's sermon this past Sunday, or Pastor Steve's dad, Pastor Steve. His sermon had to do a lot with what went on the Thursday before Good Friday.
Yeah.
And because today's Thursday, we kind of thought it'd be cool to go over that. But Steve's dad covered a lot of that, so we wanted to kind of go over what happened on Good Friday. Elliott, and there's a link for that too if you want. If you weren't able to catch up with that, check out the link in the comment, or the link is wherever the links go. It's there.
They're somewhere.
And you'll be able to check out that sermon if you miss it or if you want to go through it again. But also, you'll find a link for a timeline that Elliott found the other day for the show. It's really interesting. It kind of led and paved the way for what we're going to be reading today as we go through reading about the whole day of Good Friday. It's like a timeline of time from the whole day of Friday, everything that happened from 12 a.m. Up until, I think it was about 6 p.m. was the end of it. And it's literally almost like a play-by-play of what happened. And that has the verses and the book of what's going on in that. So be sure to check out that timeline. We're going to reference it often today. And we are also going to be reading just from one of those books, though. So there's obviously 4 Gospels, 4 different accounts of what's going on in the Bible. We're going to specifically focus on Matthew, kind of pick up and basically halfway through Matthew and then go into Matthew, basically halfway through Matthew 26, and then go through Matthew 27 up until a couple verses. There's a couple verses within Matthew 27 we're going to skip over because Steve's dad covered that on Sunday.
It's not because it's not important.
As well.
We just got a lot to cover. We got a lot of notes, a lot of things that we're super excited to go over with all of y'all. So we'll jump right into content. And also, full disclaimer, we say this every time, but it's because we really mean it. Anytime that you have any questions at all, any thoughts, any concerns even, feel free to drop them over in Facebook under the chat. Even if you're checking this out later in the week, we'll have someone get back to you. We want to be able to have this be an interactive experience, not just 2 homeboys talking about the Bible.
Yeah.
So,
2 homeboys talking about the Bible. That's what we are. Disclosure, not a foreclosure, but a disclosure. That we are not super Bible scholars. No. We just are a bunch of simple dudes that love Jesus and want everyone else to understand Jesus' love for them as well. So nothing's really up for massive debate. Obviously, we're not super duper smart. We didn't go to school for this, but we just want to make it as easy as possible.
For sure. So we are jumping in. Matthew 26. We're starting at verse 36. If you're reading the NIV, you might have a little thing that says Gethsemane. So
Which is a garden.
It's a garden.
The Gethsemane is a garden. And this is at 12 a.m. So leading up to this point in the Bible, Steve covered on Thursday, but there was the Last Supper. They had that. They ate, and then after that Last Supper, they went to go to the garden to pray. So another disclosure, Thursday has happened. It was all day Thursday. Now it's 12 a.m. So Jesus at this point is pulling an all-nighter.
Dude can't catch a break.
Right. So Jesus is pulling an all-nighter pretty much for the most part, and we are coming up right here into the garden.
Yeah, and Gethsemane actually means place of pressing. So this is a place where a lot of stuff is going down. So then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to them, sit here while I go over there and pray.
Sit here while I go over there.
I'm leaving. So he took Peter and the two sons of Zebedee, that's just James and John, just shortening it up, along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled.
Those were his homeboys too. Like a lot of times you'll read that Jesus takes them, Peter, James, and John, like those three, he'll take them over. So I feel like he confided in them a lot.
It's like his inner circle.
Yes.
Yeah, and so he said to them, my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me. Going a little further, he fell with his face to the ground and prayed, my Father, if it's possible, may this cup be taken from me, yet not as I will, but as you will. So we're getting into seeing a really human part of Jesus. One of the cool things about the Garden of Gethsemane that you're going to see is that it is a really awesome and clear example of how Jesus was both God and man. He struggled with the same things that we struggled with. We see that time and time again in Scripture, and that's where we're heading to.
And like 100% it shows, like he knows what's about to happen. So he knows because he's God, hey, I have to die for these people. But he also knows because of that, the pain that he's going to experience because he's man.
Yeah.
So he's going to feel the pain. But it's almost like he knows what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Like a boxer is about to get punched in the face. He knows he's going to get punched in the face, and he knows that it's going to hurt real bad because he's used to getting punched in the face.
For sure. Then he returned to his disciples and found them sleeping. Couldn't you men keep watch with me for 1 hour? He asked Peter. Watch and pray so hard. Watch and pray so hard. Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. And so I think it's funny that he calls out Peter. Poor Peter can never catch a break. We're going to have some more fun with him later. He went away a second time and prayed, my Father, if it is not possible for this cup to be taken unless I drink it, may your will be done. When he came back again, he again found them sleeping because their eyes were heavy.
I'd be so mad. I'd be like, you guys are like my best friends, and I asked you to do one thing. Like, you had one job.
Yeah.
One job, stay awake. We're trying to pull an all-nighter. Did you ever do that to like one of your friends? You're like, yo, we'll stay up all night. It's gonna be great. It reminds me of like Lightning McQueen when they're on the highway. He's like, oh, we'll be great, Max. Stay up. It's gonna be awesome. And then he's like,
he falls asleep.
Yep. And that was the fall of everything for Lightning McQueen. So let's see where.
Can't
Oh,
catch
and
a
I
break.
also like how Jesus, he was like, you know what? He tells his dad both times. He's like, listen, it's gonna hurt, but look, if it's got to be this way, it's got to be this way. Whatever you want, God.
Yeah.
Like I'm in. Let's do it. Let's die for the sins of man.
Yeah, and the cool thing about that is Jesus isn't trying to pray his will into effect. Like a lot of the times when we pray, I feel like we go to God with what we want to happen instead of just being like, God, this might not be the way that I like it, but if it's your plan, and I trust you in that. Mm-hmm. I think that's really huge too.
Yeah.
So he left them and went away once more and prayed a third time, saying the same thing. Then he returned to the disciples and said to them, are you still sleeping and resting? Look,
This is at about 1:30 now.
yeah. So it's getting a little bit late. Look, the hour has come and the Son of Man is delivered into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer. Good old Judas. So like he was saying, timestamp, we're at like 1:30 in the morning, right about on Thursday, well, Friday morning technically. No, Thursday. Yeah, Thursday. While he was still sleeping, Judas, one of the 12, arrived. With him was a large crowd armed with stones and swords. Stones? What?
I'm sure
Swords.
some of them had stones.
There's plenty of rocks around for
Right.
anyone who couldn't afford a weapon. Sent from the chief priests and the elders of the people. Now the betrayer had arranged a signal with them. The one I kiss is the man. Arrest him. Going at once to Jesus, Judas said, greetings, Rabbi, and kissed him. I imagine that Judas sound really squirrely and annoying.
Judas always gets a bad rap. Why did you do that to him? But I like how he greets him with a kiss. Like nowhere, I never read anywhere else where like that's how he greets him. Why'd you choose to kiss him?
Yeah.
Of all things, like why wouldn't it be like, hey, I'm gonna go up to whoever Jesus is, and to let you know that it's him, I'm gonna shake his hand. You know, like a normal person. Like why with? So I mean, maybe someone smart one day can tell me why, or I'll look it up. But
I guess like in like European culture, like they'll do kisses on the cheek, but like this was, I guess, uncommon enough. And it's still probably weird, like you're in a group full of people, you just go up to some dude, you're like, hey man, what's up? You know? But then Jesus replied, do what you came for, friend. And I thought that was really cool, that even in this moment, Jesus knows exactly what's happening. Judas is handing him over to be crucified, and Jesus still calls him friend. And Jesus didn't say anything lightly. He was so intentional with his words, and he still speaks to Judas with the opportunity for him to have forgiveness. He still calls him friend. He still sees him as able to be forgiven. And if you want to,
if he like felt bad for him too. He's like,
oh dude, I would have felt awful.
Like Jesus knows Judas is coming to betray him. He does betray him, and then Jesus still feels bad for him. He's like, yeah, it sucks for what's gonna happen.
Poor
I feel bad
Judas.
for you, man.
Yeah. Then the man stepped forward, seized Jesus, and arrested him. With that, one of Jesus' companions reached for his sword, drew it out, and struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his ear.
Whoa!
Put your sword back in its place, Jesus said to him.
Yo, I also want to we're gonna stop right here real quick. I love how in Matthew and the other this is Peter. Just so everyone knows, it's clear.
It's Peter.
For the most part, when you do read the Bible, you know that it's Peter, one of his most trusted men, cuts the ear off of this guy. But it's funny here in Matthew, this gospel, Matthew doesn't mention who it is. He's like, yeah, one of the disciples, guys, not saying any names. And in Mark, if you read the Gospel of Mark, which is, it's basically Peter's perspective written by a guy named Mark. Again, it doesn't reference it, but to show the rivalry, there's a I guess an unwritten almost rivalry between John and Peter in the book of John. Boy blows him up.
Yeah,
he's like,
he does.
it was Peter. I'm telling you, he cut his ear off.
Yeah.
The disciple which Jesus did not love.
And also we had a question written in from Jackson Rose. He says, my Bible does not say anything about how Jesus healed the soldier's ear. Didn't Jesus do that? Yes, he did. So like we said earlier, and I posted it in the comment section a little bit earlier in the thing. You can click on the timeline of it. So we've got 4 different gospels, which means that we have 4 different accounts of the same exact story. And the detail that you're talking about is actually in the book of John. It lets us know that directly Peter was the one who chopped off the dude's ear, and then Jesus picks it up off the ground, heals the guy, and then carries on with the rest of the night. That's a great question, and sometimes we'll think of the 4 different gospels. They are 4 accounts of the same exact thing. If you think about 4 different people telling the same story, some people might leave out details, some people might put in extra details, and that's one of the coolest things, is because these are 4 stories that are like some say different things, but it's all the same exact truth within that story. That's an awesome question. Thank you for writing in.
And thanks for paying attention, Jackson.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Homeboy's rocking it.
What's up, bud?
Here we go. Put your sword back in its place, Jesus said to him, for all who draw the sword will die by the sword. Do you think I cannot call on my Father, and he will at my disposal more than 12 legions of angels? But how then would the scriptures be fulfilled that say it must happen this way? Jesus is not worried. He's like, Peter, don't start fighting. Like, and why are you guys here? Like, I don't need anyone to fight. I'm trying to fulfill these prophecies that said I would be peacefully led to my death. In this hour, Jesus said to the crowd, am I leading a rebellion that you have come out with swords and clubs to capture me? Every day I sat in the temple courts teaching, and you didn't arrest me. But this has all taken place that the writings of the prophets might be fulfilled. Then all the disciples deserted him and fled. That part's sad. You are like single most like time of need that anyone could need friends or support, and the people that Jesus trusted the most all pieced out.
Yes.
That's sad.
Also, another fact, as we were talking about this with Pastor Steve a little bit the other day, we wanted to talk about what we were going over. He actually brought up something interesting, which I wanted to share. Steve said that the reason why they did come at nighttime to get Jesus, we read that they've already been prepared for that. The priests, obviously, they came at 1 a.m., 12 a.m., so they're up. They're like ready and waiting for something to happen. The reason why they did go at night is because if they would have went in the daytime, it would have started basically a rebellion. There would have been chaos in the streets. People would have freaked out. People who did believe in that time and followed Jesus it just would have went nuts. So they had to sneakily go about getting Jesus in the middle of the night.
For sure. And then at 3 in the morning, 3 a.m., a time when no one should be reasonably awake, they bring Jesus before the Sanhedrin, which is...
Or making any judgment calls.
Yeah, like anything at all.
Yeah, I've never been arraigned to court for 3 a.m.
I drowsily drudge over to the fridge. I'm like, do I have anything cold to drink right now? I don't want tap water, kind of thing. Like that's the most that I can do. And it says, those who arrested Jesus took him to Caiaphas, the high priest. He's just in charge of priestly things, organized religion at the time, which was huge. Where the teachers of the law and the elders had assembled, but Peter followed him at a distance right up to the courtyard of the high priest. He entered and sat down with the guards to see the outcome. The chief priests and the whole Sanhedrin were looking for false evidence against Jesus. Keyword false evidence. They're not even trying to get legitimate charges against the guy.
These are powerful people, though. So this
They
is
are
like the
extremely
governing.
powerful.
It's like the governing body of the Jews. They're very powerful, and also you said the other day they're like it's basically Congress for religious people.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the Sanhedrin was. So because I was like, what the heck is Sanhedrin?
Yeah.
Like it's basically Congress for religious people.
Yeah. And the chief priests and the whole Sanhedrin were looking for false evidence against Jesus. I read that part, but they did not find any, though many false witnesses came forward. So they had
False witnesses,
plenty of plants in the crowd just to try and get their agenda pushed forward.
liars.
Finally, 2 came forward and declared, "This fellow said, I'm able to destroy the temple of God and rebuild it in 3 days." Jesus did technically say that, but he's talking specifically about his body. He's like, I'm going to die and then be raised back in 3 days because the temple represents my presence. I'm going to peace out, come back, and then you guys are all going to have my presence. And then the high priest stood up and said to Jesus, "Are you not going to answer? What is this testimony that these men are bringing against you?" But Jesus remained silent. The high priest said to him, "I charge you under oath by the living God, tell us if you are the Messiah, the Son of God." "You've said so," Jesus replied. "Y'all said it. But I say to all of you, from now on you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One, coming on the clouds of heaven." This is huge. Jesus is just he's not fighting against anything that's happening. He's being peaceful at the end. He's not compromising any of the teachings that he set out to do. And then the high priest tore his clothes and said, "He has spoken blasphemy."
I love that part. Like, when I used to read that, like you read all over that the Jewish people tore their clothes when they were mad. I used to be like, that doesn't even make any sense. But then I'm like, oh yeah, it does make sense. Like whenever I get angry, I just want to I get so mad sometimes. I just want to punch something, but instead I just need to like Hulk Hogan, I can get it. Still comical though.
And then it says, "Why do we need any more witnesses? Look, now you've heard the blasphemy. What do you think?" "He is worthy of death," they answered.
He's clearly worthy to die for these random false accusations.
Yeah.
He must die.
Then they spit in his face and struck him with their fists. Others slapped him and said, "Prophesy to us, Messiah. Who hit you?" So this is a room.
That's messed up, man.
It is mad messed up. And this is the funniest part. There's dark humor woven throughout, dark humor if you want to call it that. But this is literally in the midst of a congressional meeting. Think like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer all of a sudden get up and start to beat and hit and spit on a guy who's talking. This is outrageous that what's happening right now.
That is crazy.
It is
just
absolutely
spit
ridiculous.
in his face and then punch him in the face multiple times. And then they're like, "Who hit you? Huh? Who hit you? Prophesy that." That's messed up.
It is mad messed up. So this is our first little break that we're going to be taking in the sort of chronological order of everything that happens. Like Ian was saying earlier, Pastor Steve's dad, Pastor Steve, had an awesome sermon this past Sunday about Judas and Peter, and so we have a lot of information about that already on file. Feel free to check that out, but we're going to just skip over this and just focus on the Jesus portion. Basically, Peter denies Jesus, Judas tries to get back the money that he got for betraying Jesus, and then kills himself. And so we are left with Peter having denied Jesus. He's all worried and he's all scared, but Judas could have had the same forgiveness that Jesus gave to Peter at that time, but he didn't take it, and that's the difference between Judas and Peter. But that brings us to 6 a.m., Jesus before Pilate. Pilate's the governor of the province that they're in. It's all the information you need to know about Pilate.
More powerful, basically, at that point than any of the Jewish leaders.
Exactly.
So his power is put in place by the Roman government, which ruled all in that time.
For sure. Ian, would you like to pick us up in verse 11? Right there, Jesus before Pilate.
I love picking things up and putting them down.
Yeah.
So, Jesus before Pilate. Meanwhile, Jesus stood before the governor, and asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Again, he goes, "You have said so." Jesus replied. Now, when he was accused by the chief priests and the elders, he gave no answer because he was waiting for his lawyer. I'm just kidding. That was a joke. Then Pilate asked him, don't you hear the testimony they are bringing against you? He's like, dude, what is wrong with you? They're saying all these things. But Jesus still made no reply, not even to a single charge, to the great amazement of the governor. So he's like, dude, why? Like, these people are saying these things about you. Why don't you just show them? Like, what the heck? Now, it's the governor's custom at the festival to release a prisoner chosen by the crowd. So pretty self-explanatory. At that time, they had a well-known prisoner. Key word, well-known. He's very well-known.
Notorious.
Right.
Serial killer status, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah.
Horrible guy.
And on top of that, his name was Barabbas, which I'm pretty sure is like a character from Street Fighter. So like, as soon as I hear Barabbas, I'm like, yo, this dude is straight killer, right? So well-known prisoner, his name was Barabbas. So when the crowd had gathered, Pilate asked them, look, which of these guys do you want me to let go? Do you want me to release to you Barabbas or Jesus, who's called the Messiah? So, for he knew that it was out of self-interest that they handed it over to him. So Pilate knew that it was out of the interest of the own self-interest of the Jewish people to hand Jesus over to him to be killed. While Pilate was sitting on the judge's seat, his wife, Pilate's wife, sent him a message saying, don't have anything to do with that innocent man, for I suffered a great deal today in a dream because of him. So she had this crazy prophetic dream or something happened in her dreams, like basically, don't mess with this guy, like this is real. But the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas and to have Jesus executed. Yes, release the crazy killer and let's put in the guy who says that he's the savior of the world. We're going to do that.
And something to think about this too. Think about how many prisoners they must have in prison. Apparently, people get tried for the dumbest stuff in the world. So not only do they don't just decide to pick someone who got picked up for like stealing a pack of gum. They're like, let's get this guy who is the most notorious criminal that we have right now and put him out free. That's great. Good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Hello, Clarice. Which of the two do you want me to release to you?
Barabbas.
Asked the governor. Yeah, and they yelled,
Barabbas.
Like, who started that chant, Barabbas? Like, clearly one of the Jews. Barabbas, they answered. What shall I do then? Pilate, this is basically Pilate. What shall I do then with Jesus, who is called the Messiah? Pilate asked. They all answered, crucify him. Okay, all right, let's kill him. So they all answered, crucify him. He goes, why? Why are we doing that? What crime has he committed?
Crucify him.
But they shouted even louder, crucify him, kill him, do that. When Pilate saw that he was getting nowhere with these people, he took water and he washed his hands in front of the crowd and said, I am innocent of this man's blood. He said, it's your responsibility. He didn't want anything to do with it. He's like, look, whatever. You guys are taking responsibility for this. All the people answered, his blood is on us and on our children. So I don't know why they accepted that. They're like, it's going to be our fault, his blood, and our children's fault, which I wouldn't put that on my kids. I feel bad. So,
oh my gosh.
Even if it wasn't the Son of God doing that, I would still be like, why would I want my kids to pay for whatever? Then he released Barabbas to them, but he had Jesus flogged. This is at 8 a.m. now. So Jesus, between 12 a.m. and 8 a.m. had gone through all of this, tried and everything, handed over to the people, and now is getting flogged, which is whipped. And not to get into massive medical things, basically flogging is getting whipped. The whips on the ends of them have
bone, metal, awful stuff.
Yep, like basically almost razor blades. So he's getting whipped on his back and flesh is getting ripped off. And then after that, he was handed over to get crucified.
And one of the cool things about Barabbas, a lot of people are like, this is ridiculous. They're letting a murderer go free. Barabbas is basically a stand-in for us. Like in the Bible, chronologically, basically, this is the first person that Jesus died in place of, which is incredible to think about. And Barabbas didn't understand the weight of it at the time, but Barabbas represents all of us. His name actually in the original language means son of the father, like daddy's boy, basically. So we're all sons of some semblance of a father, whether it's just biological or whatever, but this is something that Jesus is going in place of, and this is awesome stuff that.
And it's actually, it was actually cool too, because Jesus again knew that was going to happen. Like knowing everything, what he's going to experience, he knew that he was going to have the opportunity to release somebody, and he knew that he knew that they were going to be like, you know what, we're going to go with Jesus and let's put Barabbas back in jail. So he knew full well that he was full pardoning Barabbas for the crimes that he committed. So you were absolutely right in what you're saying about, what'd you say? He's the
son of the Father. He's like the first
no,
person
like
that
a
Jesus.
symbol of
symbol of us. He's a stand-in for us. He's
stand-in for us. That's right. Yeah, 100%. So now we're at about 8:30 a.m. It's not even lunchtime yet, and now the soldiers are mocking Jesus. Then the governor's soldiers took Jesus into the praetorium and gathered the whole company of soldiers around him. So he's surrounded by, again, Roman soldiers. These are like Marines. They're tough. If remember, 300. Those are Spartans. So you got Spartan, Trojans. They all end up becoming Romans. So the Roman army, we're talking about like real warrior killers right here. So the governor's soldiers took Jesus into the praetorium and gathered the whole company of soldiers around him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him. So basically it's like when you go to the hospital and they make you get naked and give you like a paper gown for the most part. So they put that on him and then twisted together a crown of thorns. They don't do that for you at the hospital. And set it on his head.
And now these aren't just like pricker bushes that like when you're going on a hike and it gets caught on your arm. These are like
these thorns are like the size of these.
Yeah, like
shards
these are
of
like
grass.
stabbing into his head, legitimately piercing. Awful stuff. Like we said, we're not going to get too deep into medical facts, but yes, continue, Ian.
Then, after they put the crown of thorns on his head, they put a staff in his right hand, and then they knelt down in front of him and mocked him. "Hail, King of the Jews," they said. They spit on him again, and then they took the staff out of his hand and they struck him in the head again and again. So they repeatedly, not only was it blows to the head with a staff, but it was pushing the thorns more and more into his head. After they mocked him and they took the robe off of him, now he's buck McCluck naked, and then they put his clothes back on him, and then they led him away to be crucified.
And one of the disclaimers about this, a lot of people, this whole process of scourging and flogging was so rough that most people didn't even get to be crucified because they were physically destroyed from this whole thing. They bled, they had trauma, awful stuff. They were dead before they could even get crucified usually.
Yeah.
Like it was super common.
I mean, it's worse than, like, if you watch any intense UFC fight, it's more brutal than that. Like, you think about what a person looks like after a fight in mixed martial arts. Their faces are bloody, their faces pounded in, but those fights don't last nearly as long as what this lasts. And they have pads on their gloves that they wear. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, like, picture that, and this is what Jesus is enduring and going through right now. So as they were going out, they met a man from Cyrene named Simon, and they forced Simon to carry the cross for him. So they made this guy do this and become a part of killing the Son of God. They came to a place called Golgotha, which means the place of skull, which I would give Jesus as if I was going to be able to choose anywhere to die, it would be on somewhere called the place of skull.
The most metal name for a location ever.
Oh yeah! There, they offered Jesus wine to drink mixed with gall. But after tasting it, he refused to drink it. So gall, I didn't know what that was. So I'm like, what the heck? What does it matter if it's mixed with gall? But gall is pretty much a bitter root or a bitter plant. So it's mixed with the wine. So I doubt that it probably tasted that good. I don't know if it was good or not. But he refused to drink it, Jesus did. When they had him crucified, they divided up his clothes by casting lots. Again, basically they're gambling
Playing
for his
Yahtzee
clothes.
for Jesus' clothes.
Yeah, or rock, paper, scissors, shoot. And sitting down, they kept watch over him there. Above his head, they placed the written charge against him. "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews."
Which they thought was ironic, but it's actually the truth. So
yeah, little did they know it was the truth.
Yeah.
Surprise!
So he's actually the king. You know.
2 rebels were crucified with him, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by hurled insults at him. So people who were walking by basically made fun of him, shaking their heads and saying, "You who are going to destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. Come down from the cross, if you who are the Son of God." In the same way, the chief priests and teachers of the law and the elders mocked him. He saved others, they said, but he can't save himself. He's the King of Israel. Let him come down from the cross, and he will believe in him. He trusts in God. Let God rescue him now if he wants him. For he said, Jesus said, "I am the Son of God." The same way the rebels who were crucified with him also heaped insults on him.
And the thing about this that they think is they're equating power with him being able to just save himself and not go through it. But I think the real power of Jesus shows that he was willing to go through it for us and then be able to have something happen on the other side that those people couldn't even think of or imagine. Like, I think that is one of the coolest parts of that. And like it says in the Bible a bunch, like one of the biggest reasons that they talk about these insults and stuff like that is because in the Bible it says that the Messiah or Jesus would be led like a lamb to the slaughter. Like a lamb that's going to get killed doesn't know that it's getting killed. It just goes, and they just suffer and they do whatever they have to do, kind of thing. And then
I like how people just walking by were making fun of him. They're like, "Oh, there's that guy that we saw. He was doing these miracles," because he said like he saved others. They said to him, they're like, "Oh, there's that guy. He said he was the Son of God. He did miracles. He did all this. You're a joke. You fool. You're hanging up there. If you are what you say you are, then come down." So keep note at this point, everybody now is in disbelief. Maybe they were believing seeing the miracles he performed. Now they're in disbelief, laughing and making fun of him.
Yeah. And then this takes us to the death of Jesus. We're picking up in verse 45. From noon until 3 in the afternoon.
So now here you know, this is where we are in a timeline.
Timestamps. Darkness came over all the land. About 3 in the afternoon, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, "Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?"
I'm glad that you took that one on. I feel like you did that on purpose, because you knew I wouldn't be able to do that.
Lema sabachthani.
I was like, literally as I read it, I read it totally wrong. I was like, Eli, Eli.
Lemur.
Lima. I'm not even gonna try it.
When some of those standing heard this, they said, "He's calling Elijah." Immediately, one of them ran up and got a sponge. He filled it with wine vinegar, put it on a staff, and offered it for Jesus to drink. The rest said, "Leave him alone. Let's see if Elijah comes to save him." Elijah was a real popular prophet way back in Old Testament times, 500-600 years before this. Really powerful dude. People were like, he was the most powerful prophet ever. And so Eli sounds a bit like Elijah. Some people think that they're either like making fun of him, twisting his words, continuously just mocking Jesus.
I wonder if they were curious here too, like if maybe that's why they're like, wait, hold on. He's talking to Elijah. Just wait. Let's see if something happens.
Maybe Elijah will come back down. Are we
maybe
seeing
he's still,
the return
maybe he is telling the truth
of the prophet?
Yes.
Now leave him alone. Let's see if Elijah comes to save him. And when Jesus had cried out again in a loud voice, he gave up his spirit. Jesus dead, y'all. Jesus dead.
And notice how it says he gave up his spirit. Like
it wasn't like it was taken from him. He was
like, this is it, man. It's done. He gave up his spirit. This is it. It's done. I'm giving it up.
At that moment, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth shook, the rock split, and tombs broke open. Ready for this? The bodies of many holy people who died were raised to life. Literally, the Bible's got zombies in it, y'all. Throwing it out there.
Walking dead.
Also,
I want to circle back around to the fake things brought up against Jesus in the trial or whatever. And the guy was like, he said he was going to tear down the temple. And we were saying like it was his body. Surprise, he did tear the temple down. Told you guys.
Boom.
He told you guys. And I love how literally it was like right after Jesus was dead, he took his last breath, boom, temple split.
Yeah. And the cool part about that, the big curtain in the temple, so something that's not explicitly like stated here, Jewish custom was such that the temple was set up so that only priests could go past a certain point. They're like, so there's this curtain that's going to divide where the common people and the priests can go, and behind this curtain is where God's presence is, where priests can go and talk to God for you. This is where a lot of like Catholic theology gets all messed up, and they're like, you still need a priest to do this. No, you don't. Bull honky. We got Jesus. We don't need that no more. So what happens is this curtain is torn. It's like you don't need anyone to intercede between people and God anymore. We just get the direct line through Jesus and his sacrifice that he made. And that's awesome for us.
Or
really
maybe
awesome.
Jesus was mad. Maybe it was also because, like, when the Jews got mad, they were like, "We're mad. We're tearing our shirts."
Tear our
And Jesus was like, "All right, well, I'm gonna tear your curtain. The curtains are coming down."
Tearing your curtain, baby. They came out of the tombs after Jesus' resurrection and went into the holy city and appeared to many people. So we got many different accounts of people seeing dead people raised to life, stones rolled away, all this stuff. And then when the centurion and those who were guarding Jesus saw the earthquake and all that happened, they were terrified and exclaimed, "Surely he was the Son of God."
Well, I want to circle back around to that.
Sure. Many women were watching from a
And this
distance.
this is still a little after 3 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
What a day.
Dude, what a day. They had followed Jesus from Galilee to care for his needs. Among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of Jesus, and Joseph, and the mother of Zebedee's sons. Joseph, not Jesus' dad, Joseph. It's a guy named Joseph of Arimathea. Different story. We'll get there eventually. Don't worry about it. And then we got the burial of Jesus. As evening approached, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph we were just talking about. Told you we'd get to it later. Who himself had become a disciple of Jesus. Going to Pilate, he asked for Jesus' body, and Pilate ordered that it be given to him. Joseph took the body, wrapped it in a clean linen cloth, and placed it in his own new tomb that he had cut out of the rock. He rolled a big stone.
Which I thought was pretty cool. He was basically like a rich guy and was like, and then obviously, I think Joseph already was like seeing the things and had been wondering if Jesus was real or not. Wanted to do this nice thing, but I mean, also at that point when Jesus dies and the temple is torn into half, how do you? It's like, holy crap! I should probably do something here. So I kind of like that.
Yeah, and
he was rich, right?
Yeah.
Became a rich man. Yeah.
And placed it in his own new tomb. He rolled a big stone in front of the entrance to the tomb and went away. Mary Magdalene and the other Mary were sitting there opposite the tomb. And then that takes us to the end of Good Friday.
What a intense day.
It is absolutely wild.
And it all happens in less than 24 hours. Like all of that is in the less span of 24 hours. And what's interesting is you guys will be able to have all day tomorrow to think about that. Also want to challenge you guys, do some homework, go back and read through the area that we missed, check out that timeline, but also read through, like we said, we only got to read through, obviously we're almost coming up on 40 minutes now. The show's supposed to be 30 minutes. So we're only able to do this account in Matthew. Go through the other Gospels and check that out. But also, if you are joining us, if a friend of yours just invited you at the beginning of this to listen and be a part, I want to circle back around to one of the things that we had talked about in verse 54. It said, when the centurion, which was a Roman soldier, again, tough guy, they're not dumb, they're smart. Like, think about it, you have to be an intelligent, highly functional person to be a Navy SEAL. That's these guys. They're like Navy SEALs. So when the Navy SEAL and those with him who were guarding Jesus saw the earthquake after he died and all that had happened, the dead people come into life, everything, they were terrified. They were terrified. Like, why do you think they were terrified? I'm sure they were terrified because at this point, everything that this man who they thought is possibly a lunatic had said is real, and they played a part in killing the Son of God, the Savior, the Messiah. So it is proof. These are historical facts that Jesus was real. The temple was a real place. It was really split in half at the death of Jesus. And on top of that, just as much as these guys had something to do with that, I had something to do with that, Elliott had something to do with that, because we all sin, and our sins have a penalty. The penalty is death and damnation to hell. However, Jesus, just like he released Barabbas, Jesus releases us from our chains of sin and the grip that death and hell has on us. Because surely Jesus was the Son of God, therefore completing, when he took that last breath, completing what he was supposed to do. His death was the payment for our sins so that we can get accepted into the kingdom of heaven.
Yeah.
If you're watching today, right now, or sometime later on, and maybe in this moment, you're experiencing something, realizing something, maybe something has just come over you that you've never experienced before, and maybe you want to make a decision to accept Jesus and follow him, just like we've been talking about the followers of Christ through Acts. If you want to accept the fact that he died on the cross for your sins so that you can get to go to heaven, and you want that gift of salvation that he gives us, that when we leave this earth, when we do die, we will only die on to the planet Earth, but we will be able to go and exist in a place called heaven where there's no sin, no hurt, no pain, no coronavirus, there's no fear. It's just almost, it seems like a magical place. Like, if you would like to receive that gift, let us know. Leave a comment. You can directly message us. You can email me, Ian at JRNY.Church, or Elliott at JRNY.Church, or if you're friends with or know anyone else on staff, clearly it's easy to crack the code for our emails. It's just our first name at JRNY.Church. Yeah. So please let us know if this has reached you and you want to make the decision to accept Jesus today.
And if you did, we just dropped a link in the Facebook comments, or you can hop into our website, JRNY.Church/I-Met-Jesus. It's going to give you some next steps, some reading plans, some information to let you know really the impact and the full extent of what that decision means for your life, so you don't have to sort of wander
I just
through
saw
clueless.
my homeboy Steve Jaffe is joined. Dude, that's a friend from high school. What's up, Jaffe? How you doing, man?
Yo.
That's awesome. What's up, dude? Hopefully get to catch up soon. Before we go, we wanted to ask you guys one question. We've been going through the book of Acts. We should be on chapter 4 next week. However, we're kind of wondering, we wanted to get some feedback from you guys. We were thinking about maybe not continuing to go through Acts. It's a long book, and who knows how much more time we're going to have being quarantined and meeting you guys like this together. We want to pick your brains. Do you guys want to finish the book of Acts? Leave a comment below. If you do, just say yes in the comments, and we're going to count them. If not, put a book in that maybe you would want us to cover, something that we can get into, maybe something that you didn't understand. Please don't pick something like Lamentations or something like that.
It's
or
not
Leviticus, because we can't make that any less boring than what it already is.
He's very right. He's extremely right.
But let us know if there's a book that you want us to cover. Leave it in the comments below. We would love to be able to go over that and help make anything as easy and simple as possible to understand.
For sure.
Be sure to keep staying with us tomorrow at 10 o'clock. For all you fitness gurus, my homeboy Tim is going to be having Fitness Friday, making you guys work for those extra calories that you've been eating because you're stuck at home. And if you're like me, you've been getting down on that. Well, if you're from the Boyertown area and you're like me, you've been getting down on that Long Acres ice cream. If you know what I'm talking about, Boyertown people, give me a shout out. So. But we hope that you guys have a great rest of your week. We'll see you tomorrow, and have an incredible Easter.
See you guys.